This happened in the spring of 2024, when I was 30, renting a cabin for a weekend getaway in the Smoky Mountains of Tennessee. My name's Lauren, and I'd been grinding at a desk job in Nashville, desperate for a break. I found this little cabin online, cheap, secluded, perfect for some quiet. The listing showed a cozy A-frame with a wraparound porch, tucked deep in the woods, about an hour from the nearest town. I booked it, packed a bag, and drove out on a Friday evening, excited to unplug and breathe some mountain air. I got there just after dusk. The cabin was exactly like the photos: weathered wood, a tin roof, and a gravel path leading up from a narrow dirt road. The air smelled like pine and damp earth, and the only sounds were crickets and the faint rush of a creek nearby. I hauled my stuff inside, locked the door behind me, and settled in. The place was small: one bedroom, a living area with a stone fireplace, and a kitchenette. The windows had thin curtains, and the walls were lined with old hunting photos, the kind with guys in flannel posing with rifles. It felt homey, if a bit dated. I made a sandwich, cracked open a book, and sat by the fireplace, the crackle of logs keeping me company. Around 10 p.m., I heard a noise outside, a sharp snap, like a branch breaking. I froze, book still in my lap. The woods are full of noises, I told myself. Deer, maybe a raccoon. But it came again, closer, deliberate, like something heavy stepping on twigs. I turned off the lamp, plunging the cabin into near darkness, and crept to the window. The porch light was weak, barely reaching the tree line, but I couldn't see anything moving, just shadows and swaying branches. I checked the door, locked, deadbolt secure, and tried to shake off the unease. But then my phone buzzed. I'd barely had a signal since I arrived, so I was surprised to see a text from an unknown number. "Nice fire. Looks warm." My heart stopped. I spun around, staring at the fireplace, the orange glow flickering across the room. Someone could see it from outside. I yanked the curtains tighter, but they were so thin I knew the light still bled through. I texted back, "Who is this?" No response. My hands were shaking as I grabbed a kitchen knife and crouched by the couch, listening. Another snap outside, this time from the back of the cabin, near the bedroom. I dialed 911, but the call wouldn't connect. 0 bars. The isolation that had seemed so appealing now felt like a trap. I crept to the bedroom window, peering through a gap in the curtains. Nothing but darkness and the faint outline of trees. Then, a soft thump against the wall, like someone tapping the wood. My breath caught. I backed away, knife gripped tight, and checked every window, every lock. Everything was secure, but the thumps continued, slow and rhythmic, circling the cabin. Around 11 p.m., my phone buzzed again. Another text. "You left your car unlocked." My stomach dropped. I'd parked maybe 20 feet from the cabin, and I was sure I'd locked it. I couldn't see the car from the windows. It was around the side, near the gravel path. No way was I going outside to check. The thumping stopped, but now I heard something worse. A faint scraping, like metal dragging across wood, coming from the porch. I crouched lower, heart pounding so loud it drowned out the fire's crackle. I tried 911 again. Still, no signal. The scraping stopped, and for a moment, there was nothing but silence. Then, a loud bang on the front door. 3 hard knocks, like someone testing the frame. I stifled a gasp, clutching the knife. I crawled to the door, peeking through the tiny glass pane. Nobody was there, just the empty porch, the light bulb swaying slightly in the wind. But on the porch floor, I saw something, a small folded piece of paper, like it had been slipped under the door. My hands trembled as I picked it up. It was a gas station receipt, dated that morning, from a town 30 miles away. On the back, in messy handwriting, was one word: run. I dropped the receipt, my mind racing. Was this a sick joke? A warning? I grabbed my keys, ready to bolt to the car, but then I heard it. A low whistle, almost musical, coming from the woods. It wasn't an animal, not a bird. It was human, deliberate, moving closer. I froze, torn between staying put and making a break for it. The whistle stopped, and headlights swept across the windows. A car pulling up the gravel path. I ducked, praying it was help, not whoever was out there. A man's voice called out, "Hello, this is Ranger Patel, Park Service. You okay in there?" Relief flooded me, but I was still cautious. I cracked the door, knife hidden behind my back, and saw a uniformed ranger, flashlight in hand, standing by a marked SUV. I spilled everything: the noises, the texts, the receipt. He radioed for backup and checked the property. They found my car unlocked, the driver's door slightly ajar, but nothing inside was missing. The woods were empty, no footprints, no tire tracks besides mine and the Ranger's. They traced the phone number later, a burner, untraceable. The Ranger stayed until morning and I packed up at dawn, never so happy to see my car. I drove straight back to Nashville, canceling the rest of the rental. The cabin's owner claimed no one else had access, but I didn't believe him. I still don't know who was out there, watching, whistling, leaving that note. But every time I see a fireplace glow or hear a branch snap, I'm back in that cabin, wondering if I should have run when they told me to. This happened in the summer of 2021 when I was 22, living in a small town just outside Albuquerque, New Mexico. My name's Marcus, and I was working construction to save up for trade school. Our crew was building a strip mall on the edge of town, in a dusty lot that used to be an old drive-in theater. The place was mostly cleared out, just gravel, some rusted metal poles and patches of weeds baking under the sun. We'd work long days, 6 a.m. to dusk, and I'd usually stick around after to tidy up tools or grab a drink from the gas station across the street. That's when I first noticed the van. It was a beat-up white cargo van, no windows on the sides, parked at the far end of the lot near a chain-link fence. I saw it one evening around 7 p.m., just sitting there, engine off, no one around. It didn't belong to anyone on our crew, and the lot was private property, so it stood out. I figured someone dumped it there. Happens a lot in empty lots, but the next day it was still there, same spot, same angle, like it hadn't moved an inch. I mentioned it to my boss, but he shrugged it off, said it was probably abandoned and the county would tow it eventually. By the third day, I was curious. After the crew left, I walked over to check it out. The van was old, paint peeling, with a faded logo on the side, something about plumbing, half scratched off. The windows were tinted so dark I couldn't see inside, but there was a faint smell, like motor oil and something sour, lingering around it. I knocked on the driver's door, half expecting no answer, but a voice called out, "Yeah?" Low, rough, like the guy had smoked a pack a day for years. I stepped back, startled. You okay in there?" I asked, trying to sound casual. "This is a work site." The door creaked open, and a guy stepped out, mid-40s, wiry, wearing a stained gray hoodie and jeans that looked like they hadn't been washed in weeks. His eyes were bloodshot, and he had this twitchy way of moving, like he was wired on something. "Just resting," he said, flashing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Long drive." He didn't offer a name, just leaned against the van, watching me. I nodded, told him he couldn't park here overnight, and walked back to my truck, feeling his stare on my back the whole way. That night, I couldn't shake the encounter. Something about his voice, his eyes, felt wrong. I told myself I was overthinking it. Guy was probably just a drifter passing through. But the next evening, The van was still there, and now there were two others parked nearby, a rusted pickup and a sedan with a cracked windshield. I didn't see the guy, but I heard music, faint and staticky, coming from the van like an old radio. I didn't stick around to investigate. I hopped in my truck and peeled out, gravel crunching under my tires. The next day, I brought it up with the crew. One of the older guys, Diego, said he'd seen people hanging around the lot after dark before, usually near that fence. Probably just kids messing around, he said, but he didn't sound convinced. That evening, I stayed late again, organizing equipment in the trailer. The sun was setting, painting the lot orange when I heard footsteps. Slow, deliberate, crunching on the gravel. I looked up, and there was the guy from the van, standing maybe 30 feet away, just watching me. He didn't move, didn't speak, just stood there, hands in his pockets. My heart kicked up, and I grabbed a crowbar from the trailer, holding it low so he couldn't see. "Hey man," I called out, "you need something?" He didn't answer, just tilted his head like he was studying me. Then he turned and walked back toward the van, disappearing behind it. I waited, crowbar still in hand, but he didn't come back. The other vehicles were gone now, just the van left, sitting like a squat shadow in the dusk. I locked the trailer, jumped in my truck, and drove off, checking my rearview mirror the whole way home. Around midnight, my phone rang, an unknown number. I ignored it, but it rang again, then a third time. I finally picked up, and it was that same rough voice. "You shouldn't poke around," he said, slow and deliberate. "Lots of things get buried in lots like that." My blood ran cold. How did he get my number? I hadn't given it to anyone. I hung up, blocked the number, and turned off my phone, but I barely slept, every creak in my apartment making me jump. The next morning, I told my boss everything. He called the cops, and they checked the lot that afternoon. The van was gone, no trace of it or the other cars. They found something else, though. Near the fence, hidden under some weeds, was a pile of trash bags, duct taped shut. The cops opened one, and the smell hit them first. Rotting food, clothes, and something they wouldn't describe. They said it looked like someone had been living out there, maybe for weeks, but there were no IDs, no papers, nothing to trace. They figured it was a transient camp, but the call I got, they couldn't explain that. I quit the site a week later, took a different job across town. The strip mall's finished now, all shiny and new, but I never drive by it. I keep thinking about what that guy said, things getting buried in lots like that. I don't know what he meant, and I don't want to, but every time I hear gravel crunch or see a white van, I'm back in that empty lot, wondering who was watching me from the shadows.
This happened in the fall of 2023, when I was 25, driving home from a weekend trip in rural Oregon. My name's Tyler, and I'd been visiting a buddy in a small town near the coast, a place called Tillamook, known for its cheese and foggy back roads. I was heading back to Portland, about a 2-hour drive, in my beat-up sedan. It was Sunday evening, around 6 p.m., and the sun was already dipping below the trees, casting long shadows across the road. I'd taken a shortcut through a forested stretch of Highway 6 to avoid traffic, a winding route that cuts through dense pines and not much else. About 20 minutes in, I hit a roadblock, orange cones, and a road closed sign, which was weird because I hadn't seen any alerts online. A handwritten note taped to the sign said, "Detour, turn left, 2 miles." The detour road was narrow, barely paved, more gravel than asphalt, disappearing into the woods. My GPS was useless out here, no signal, just a spinning wheel. I hesitated, but I didn't want to backtrack an hour, so I turned left, tires crunching on the gravel, the forest swallowing my headlights. The road was rough, branches scraping the sides of my car, and the air smelled like damp moss and cedar. I drove slowly, maybe 15 miles an hour, scanning for signs of the main road. 10 minutes in, I saw a pickup truck parked on the shoulder, its tailgate down, no one around. It looked old, rusted, with a pile of tarps in the bed. I figured it was abandoned, maybe left by loggers, but something about it made my skin prickle. I kept driving, telling myself it was nothing, just the woods playing tricks on my nerves. Then, my headlights caught something. A man standing in the middle of the road, maybe 50 feet ahead. He was tall, wearing a dark jacket and a baseball cap, facing away from me. I slowed to a stop, heart picking up. I honked lightly, expecting him to move, but he didn't. Just stood there, still as a statue. I rolled down my window a crack and called out, "Hey, you okay? Need a ride?" No response. The air felt heavier now, the forest too quiet, like the crickets had gone silent. I waited, engine idling, watching him. Then he turned, slow, and his face was in shadow, the cap hiding his eyes. He started walking toward me, not fast, but deliberate, hands in his pockets. My stomach twisted. I locked the doors, shifted into reverse, and started backing up, keeping my eyes on him. He didn't speed up, just kept walking, steady, like he had all the time in the world. I backed up maybe 100 feet, then stopped. I didn't want to hit the pickup truck behind me. That's when I noticed the tarps in the truck bed were moving, like something was shifting underneath.
My heart was pounding now. I glanced back at the man. He was closer, maybe 30 feet away, still walking, head tilted like he was studying me. I threw the car into drive, ready to swing around him, but then I saw headlights in my rearview mirror. Another vehicle was coming down the detour, fast, its high beams blinding me. I froze, trapped between the man in front and whatever was behind. The approaching car, a dark SUV, stopped just behind the pickup truck, and its lights cut off. Silence again, except for my engine and my own ragged breathing. The man stopped walking, now maybe 20 feet from my car, and just stood there, staring. I couldn't see his face, but I felt his eyes on me, heavy, like a weight. Then the SUV's door opened, and another figure stepped out, shorter, stockier, wearing a hooded jacket. They didn't speak, didn't signal, just started walking toward the pickup truck. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely grip the wheel. I didn't know what was happening, but every instinct screamed to get out of there. I floored it, swerving onto the shoulder to avoid the man in the road. My tires spun on the gravel, kicking up dust, and I barely missed a tree as I sped past. The man didn't move, didn't flinch, just watched me go. In my rear view, I saw the second figure stop by the pickup, lifting one of the tarps. I didn't wait to see what was under it. I drove, heart hammering, until the road spit me back onto Highway 6, the detour sign nowhere in sight. The roadblock was gone too. No cones, no sign, just open asphalt. I didn't stop until I hit a gas station 20 miles later, hands still trembling as I called the county sheriff. I told them everything, the roadblock, the man, the pickup, the SUV. They sent a deputy to check, but they found nothing. No detour sign, no abandoned truck, no tarps. The deputy said the road hadn't been closed in weeks, and there were no reports of suspicious activity. They chalked it up to me misreading a construction sign, but I know what I saw. That man's stare, the moving tarps, the way the second figure moved like they were hiding something, it wasn't my imagination. I take the long route to Portland now, avoiding Highway 6. But sometimes, late at night, I think about that detour, the man in the road, and what was under those tarps. I wonder if I was seconds away from finding out, and I'm glad I didn't.